Since my childhood, every time I have a dream at night, it's the same dream. A strange man with a psycho smile is strangling me. In my youth, I went to a psychiatrist and took pills, but they didn't help. Every dream I have is about this person. My wife is very worried about me. She found and paid for a doctor who was a real expert in his field. Today was the first session. It's him. His face I see every time I dream. Please help. I have a very typical life and a predictable daily routine. I wake up at 7 in the morning, quickly have breakfast, kiss my wife and children, and head to work. I work as a policeman, and it's important for me to show them I love every morning, because you never know what could happen. When I come back from work, we have dinner together, watch TV, read books. Lately, it seems like my wife has become even happier, although she always smiles anyway. The right decision was to shoot them 3 years ago when they tried to leave.
My room doesn't have any toys or pretty things, or a talking box with colorful pictures. Mom brings me food once a day, and it's always raw meat. It's very tasty, and my mom is the most beautiful and kind person in the world. But I envy the boy I can sometimes see through the cracks in the floor of my room. He looks a lot like me. His skin looks very soft, and his toys are very colorful. I wonder if I take a bite out of him at night, will Mom be very upset?
My psychiatrist thinks I have a syndrome where I believe that a stranger has replaced my husband. I don't argue with the doctor anymore. I won't be able to prove to him that I saw that monster chewing on my husband's leg and grinning wickedly. However, it seems that soon I won't care about it anymore. Yesterday in the garden, I saw a woman with empty eyes who looked exactly like me.
2 weeks ago, the police found my missing husband. They found him on the outskirts of the city with amnesia, but otherwise in good condition. Every day, we receive a lot of friends who congratulate me on his return, so I can't get rid of the urge to go out to the backyard every evening and check that his body is still where I buried it 3 years ago.
I discovered that my new neighbor is a serial killer. He always looks friendly and sociable, his house is always neat and tidy, and at work, he is known as an honest and decent person. He has a wife, 2 kids, and a dog. He goes to church on Sundays, and donates items to charity every month. To be honest, I would have never suspected him myself if he hadn't killed me, along with the other 16 guys. I worked as a nurse in a hospital when an elderly patient started behaving strangely. He said that he was being followed by a spirit and began screaming that it was getting closer. We gave him a sedative and decided to move him to another room, but when we opened the door with a stretcher, we saw that the room was empty. The patient had disappeared, and we couldn't find him. We searched the entire hospital, but he had simply vanished.
Once I attended a coaching session that changed my entire life. The coach talked about how everyone deserves love by default. Everyone around us, every person, including myself. It's strange that none of the women I picked up in the park over the next 12 years seemed to appreciate this approach. It's strange that it didn't work as an argument in court either. Oh well. She deserves love too.
I've been hearing them all my life. These strange sounds, like little paws, like quiet footsteps, like the sound of hundreds of grinding teeth. Quieter during the day, quieter in nature and louder in the city, especially at night, in my apartment. I've almost learned to live with it, almost learned. I've come to terms with the fact that it's all just my illness, having nothing to do with reality. But then one day I saw what was making those sounds. And I wish I could go back to thinking I was just crazy.
I always felt that there was something off about Father Richards, the priest. When he looked at me during his sermons, his gaze would always become strange, as if he was imagining doing things to me. I wanted to tell my parents about it, but I knew they wouldn't believe me, since Father Richards was one of the most upstanding citizens in our town.
I had to snap his neck and hide his body behind the altar so people don't know about my possession.
The nosy bastard.
When you're a student and want to rent an apartment with friends, you don't have too many options to be picky with good choices. So when we were offered an apartment with not the best history, but close to the university, my friends and I agreed without thinking twice. On the first night there, I woke up from a strange feeling that someone was watching me. there was a woman with a bloody face sitting at the edge of my bed. I was about to jump out of bed, but she gently put her hand on my chest and said,
Don't, dear. My husband is somewhere in the room.
I am a student and often stay up late browsing the internet because I want to relax my brain after studying. Sometimes I fall asleep with my phone in my hand, but I'm used to it. One night, after my usual internet surfing and chatting with friends, I woke up to a strange feeling. I noticed that the screen of my smartphone was displaying a strange and creepy image that I had never searched for or downloaded. I felt nauseous just looking at it and quickly clicked on the X to close the window. But immediately after that, a message popped up in my messenger saying, "You know too much." We were already in bed with my wife when we heard a noise coming from our closet. Jessica asked me to check what it was because she was scared, although I was sure it was just something with the ventilation. When I got up and went to the closet, I found my wife there, dead and decomposing.
So, is it a ventilation problem, dear?
A voice came from behind my shoulder. I was chatting with my friend on the phone when the connection suddenly started to get worse. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it. Maybe he was passing through an area with poor cell reception. But then I heard a whisper on the other end, as if a fragment of a phrase. I thought that maybe due to the crackling and distortion on the line, I didn't hear my friend's words clearly and asked him to repeat. In response, I heard a voice say, "This is not your friend."
I worked in a psychiatric hospital. One of the patients was particularly difficult for me to interact with. He always sat in the corner of his room quietly, rocking back and forth, and only repeated, "I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting." One day, as I walked past his room, I noticed that he was drawing something in red on the wall. When I tried to find out what was happening, he turned to me with eyes full of madness and whispered, "I'm waiting for the right moment," waving his hand at the killed nurse.
My upstairs neighbors argue almost every night, and I become an involuntary witness to it time after time. They always shout so loudly that I can almost hear parts of their phrases usually. It was the same tonight. But now I feel only fear, although I usually don't care. Because this morning, I saw the police by the entrance. These neighbors cut each other to death in their fight.
Today I needed to urgently leave for a few hours, but our nanny wasn't answering her phone. I tried to talk to my child about having to stay alone, but he said, "It's okay, the second you will take care of me during that time." She always does that when the nanny falls asleep.
I have a psychological disorder that makes me repeat certain rituals all the time. For example, closing the door to my bedroom before going to sleep and turning the key in it twice. Last night, I woke up to a strange noise and saw that the door was slightly open.
Today, I was sorting through old things in the attic and found my great-grandmother's diary. She was a very thoughtful and intelligent woman who wrote down every detail of her days, and I enjoyed reading her thoughts. But in the last month, it seems that her sanity began to slip. The entries became very bloodthirsty, describing terrible things she wanted to do to her neighbors and the like, and her handwriting became shaky and somewhat ominous. I was about to close the diary when my eye caught the date of the last entry, and I started to flip through the pages again with horror. The entries had become cruel and frightening since the day of her death.
I'm sitting on my bed, flipping through a diary that details all of my secret thoughts, who I have a crush on, my impressions of the day, where we're going tomorrow, and even my dreams. The thing is, I've never actually kept a diary. I found this notebook in our mailbox today.
Thanks for joining us for another hair-raising episode. If you enjoyed these spine-chilling stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date with all of our upcoming videos. Don't forget to check out our other bone-chilling content, and let us know in the comments which stories kept you up at night. We love hearing from our audience, and we might even feature your favorite tales in a future video. Stay tuned for more terrifying tales on our channel. Until next time, keep your lights on and your doors locked. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.